Okay, picture this. It's dawn. There's a real chill in the air. Police lights are flashing red and blue against the sides of nearby buildings. And crime scene tape is just fluttering in the wind. You step out of your vehicle, and you immediately see evidence markers scattered all across the ground. A single fingerprint, a microscopic drop of blood, just a stray strand of hair. Now, to the ordinary eye, these might seem completely insignificant, right? But to us, they are the silent witnesses that can literally expose a killer, solve a mystery, and deliver justice. Welcome to This Explainer. Consider this your ultimate career roadmap and your very first virtual training day in the incredibly fascinating world of forensic science. I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide as we explore how science, evidence, and raw investigative intelligence bridge that massive gap between crime and justice.
So let's dive right into this foundational concept. Everything we do in this field, and I mean everything, traces back to this single, powerful quote from Dr. Edmund Locard. He's a true pioneer in forensic science. He said, "Every contact leaves a trace." We call this Locard's exchange principle. Just imagine a scenario where a suspect breaks into a home. They might think they've been incredibly careful, wearing dark clothes, moving quietly, but as they brush against a doorframe, a microscopic fiber from their jacket just gets snagged on a tiny splinter. Simultaneously, the natural oils from their bare thumb leave a latent fingerprint on the window glass. They took something away, maybe a speck of dust on their shoe, and they left something behind. That invisible exchange, that is exactly what we hunt for. It is the absolute bedrock of our entire profession.
And here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First up, the golden rule. Second, securing the scene. Third, evidence processing. Fourth, we'll look at career specializations. And finally, we'll finish with the reality check.
All right, jumping right into Section 1, the golden rule. Let's define our workspace. Before we can even think about collecting evidence, we have to deeply understand our environments. The really critical distinction here is between primary and secondary crime scenes. As a rookie, you've got to know how to categorize and manage these locations right off the bat. So, the primary crime scene is the exact location where the criminal act actually occurred. Say, the living room where a violent struggle and murder took place. But look, criminals don't just vanish into thin air, right? They flee, they dispose of evidence. So a secondary crime scene is any alternate location related to the crime. This could be the suspect's vehicle used to transport a body, or maybe a remote wooded area where a weapon was dumped. And here's the kicker. Both scenes are equally vital, and both require the exact same rigorous level of scientific protection.
Moving right along to Section 2, securing the scene. It is time for a tactical field exercise. Okay, this is where theory meets reality. We're moving out of the classroom and stepping into a tactical field exercise. Here's the most crucial point to remember. When you arrive on site, your first job is not to whip out a magnifying glass and start looking for clues. Actually, scratch that. You shouldn't even be looking at the ground yet. Your very first priority is a safety assessment. Is the suspect still in the area? Are there environmental hazards? Once it's safe, step 2 is emergency medical response. Saving lives always supersedes evidence collection. Only then do we move to step 3, establishing those inner and outer perimeters, and step 4, scene security. You have to lock down that environment immediately, because if you don't control the scene controls you, and your evidence is totally compromised before you even begin. And remember, you aren't doing this alone. You're a cog in a massive, highly coordinated crime scene investigation team. You've got the uniformed officers and scene security personnel holding the perimeter. You have detectives out there interviewing witnesses. You've got digital forensic experts securing laptops and cloud-based data, while forensic pathologists examine biological evidence. This explainer is your personal roadmap. But never forget that a successful investigation requires absolutely perfect collaboration between the field officers doing the collecting and the laboratory analysts doing the decoding. All right, Section 3, evidence processing. Let's talk about some hands-on tactical skills. So, the perimeter is secure and the team is in place. Now what? Well, you can't just wander around a scene hoping to accidentally trip over a clue. You have to use methodical search procedures. I like to say this methodology perfectly illustrates the geometry of justice. Are you in a wide-open field? Well, you might use a line search, literally walking shoulder to shoulder with your team. Are you in a really complex indoor room? A grid search ensures you cover the exact same ground twice, but from different angles. Or maybe a spiral search, which might be used by a single investigator working outward from a central piece of evidence. You just have to know how and when to apply these specific methods to guarantee that not a single piece of trace evidence is missed. Let's just pause for a quick mid-deck knowledge check here.
I really want to test your instincts. What do you think destroys more evidence than criminals do? Just think about it for a second. Got a guess? The answer is us. Yep, contamination and poor scene preservation. If you accidentally step on a shoe print, or if you speak over a piece of biological evidence without wearing a mask, you might as well be helping the criminal get away with it. This is exactly why we wear the gloves, the protective suits, the shoe covers, and the masks every single time.
Now, once we finally find the evidence, we absolutely don't touch it. We document it. There are incredibly strict protocols for evidence photography. We always start with overall shots to capture the entire context of the room. Then we move to mid-range shots to show the spatial relationship between items, like, say, a knife on the floor relative to a sofa. Finally, we take close-up shots using scale photography. This means placing a specialized ruler right next to the evidence so its exact size is recorded forever. These steps aren't just for our own internal records, they are legally required to ensure the images are fully admissible in a courtroom later on.
Moving to Section 4, Career Specializations. We are heading inside the laboratory. Okay, we've successfully processed the scene. Now let's shift our focus to the lab. This is where you really chart your logical career progression, from a junior field investigator all the way to a specialized forensic lab lead. Think about what fascinates you. If you're drawn to biology, you might specialize in handling blood, hair, and saliva through DNA profiling. If technology is your true passion, recovering deleted files, cracking mobile phones, and analyzing cloud data puts you firmly in digital forensics. Or maybe physics and mechanics are more your thing, leading you to ballistics investigation, where you'll examine the unique microscopic grooves left on cartridges and bullets by a firearm. Let's look at how this builds into some highly specialized technical procedures. Because in the lab, you aren't just looking at items, you're actively decoding the criminal event. You might use chemical development techniques to make totally invisible latent fingerprints suddenly appear like magic. You could be running DNA sequencing that matches a suspect against a massive global database. You might analyze the specific impact patterns of blood spatter to determine the exact angle of an assault. Or maybe you'll run gunshot residue and trajectory testing to prove exactly where a shooter was standing. When it comes down to it, science is your ultimate interrogation tool. And all of those specializations, they culminate right here: crime scene reconstruction. Let's look at a quick case study scenario. Imagine a really complex scene where the initial reports suggest an accident. It happens all the time. But by merging blood spatter pattern analysis from the biological team with digital GPS footprints recovered from a suspect's phone by the digital team, investigators can build a totally undeniable timeline. They reconstruct the event minute by minute, proving exactly what occurred before, during, and after the act. It's just an incredible synthesis of multiple scientific disciplines coming together to reveal the undeniable truth. Which brings us to Section 5, the reality check. Let's discuss the harsh realities and ethics of the job. Look, as your mentor, I'd be doing you a huge disservice if I only showed you the polished, scientific victories. I need to prepare you for the harsh realities of this job. Just look at this timeline mapping out the chain of custody. It is completely unforgiving. From hour 1 of collection to day 2 at the lab, all the way to month 6 in the courtroom, every single time a piece of evidence changes hands, it must be rigorously documented. A single break in this sequence, just one missing signature or a torn evidence bag, that can result in the evidence being entirely thrown out. And that means a failed prosecution and, potentially, the release of a guilty offender right back onto the streets. The legal burden rests entirely on your shoulders. And honestly, the challenges definitely don't stop there. You're going to face severe weather conditions, washing away trace evidence before you even arrive on scene. You'll face professional hurdles that go way beyond the crime itself. For example, when analyzing investigations in regions like Nigeria, we see some really profound systemic challenges: critical resource and equipment shortages, limited modern forensic laboratories, and weak evidence management systems. As a rookie, you have to be resilient. You have to learn to maintain absolute scientific rigor, even when the environmental or systemic conditions are working completely against you. Because at the end of the day, your most vital tools aren't magnifying glasses or high-tech DNA sequencers. They are listed right here on the screen. Absolute impartiality, relentless truth-seeking, unwavering respect for victims, strict legal compliance, and evidence integrity. Remember, we don't work for the prosecution, and we certainly don't work for the defense. We work for the evidence. We let the science speak, completely untainted by bias, emotion, or public pressure.
Criminals will always attempt to hide their actions. They'll try to erase their tracks or destroy their secrets.
But science has a pretty remarkable way of dragging the truth right back into the light. Justice is not built on assumptions. It is built on cold, hard facts. It is built on your relentless pursuit of the truth. So, as you embark on this incredible career path, I want to leave you with one final, provocative question to carry with you onto every single future crime scene. When the lights go down in the courtroom and a life literally hangs in the balance, will your evidence speak the truth when it matters most? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious out there, and I'll see you in the field.